I'm Ron Patterson with Utah State University Extension in Carbon County. Today we're going to plant some corn. Corn on the cob is one of those late summer treats that everybody enjoys. So we're going to show some things that we can do to make a good successful crop with corn. I've measured out here, I've got a good straight line for my corn so I can get it planted in a straight line. I always like to have good straight lines. And then also I've measured out from this fence line 2 feet. Your rows between the corn, probably the best spacing is about 30 inches between the rows. Within the row, you want your corn plants to be about 9 to 12 inches apart. You get them any closer than that, you'll reduce your yields. Any farther away from that, then you'll have probably good yields, but less efficient use of your space. Another thing about corn is that it pollinates from above and drops down below. So for the best pollination, if you can have 4 rows of corn is better than, say, 3, 2, or 1 row of corn. You can still get pollination, but you'll get better pollination if you have 4 rows of corn in your corn patch. So I'll show you how we'll make the furrow. Planting corn can be easy or hard depending on the toys or tools that you happen to have to use. So we'll make a furrow and do it by hand. If you've got a small patch, show you the different ways to do it. All right. So to make a furrow, just use the corner of your hoe, follow your line. However long a line you're going to make, that's a pretty quick and easy way to make a furrow. Another tool, if you're into tools and gadgets, it's kind of fun, is this little wheel cultivator. You can take that in there. Now, while we can see that there's a fair amount of moisture in this soil right now, we get some good spring winds here in southeastern Utah that can dry this topsoil out real fast. So I want to make sure that I've got good moisture down there for my seed so that it'll germinate and emerge in good shape. Now, corn is a really pretty tough seedling. You plant it about 1 inch deep in the soil and it'll come up, that coleoptile and the cotyledon will come up and do quite well. It can tolerate a fair amount of frost early in the season, so you can plant it probably early May and still be pretty successful with your corn. Once that growing plate gets up above the ground, when that freezes, your corn is done. So while the seedling is down low and you don't have that extension up below the soil surface, you can tolerate a little bit of frost and it'll do okay. You can also plant corn fairly late. Around our country, you want to have a growing season corn of probably less than 90 days just to be safe. I will plant corn on the 4th of July just to have a late crop, and I haven't failed yet, but that's a big risk to plant corn that late. So you want to have it planted by the 1st of June anyway to have a good corn crop and to enjoy that corn on the cob in August or September. All right, so corn, basically you're going to plant 1 seed at a time, every 9 to 12 inches. Get it down there in the bottom of the furrow. If you get it planted a little thick, you can always thin them out when they pop up later. Doesn't take a lot of corn and you get pretty good yields off of it. And of course, it's depending on the variety you like. This is an 82-day corn, so in about 12 weeks, I'll have me some corn on the cob, maybe put some in the freezer. So I've got my corn planted. I'm just going to cover it up now, use my hoe, cover it up about 1 inch of soil on there. Use the hoe to kind of tamp it down. Depending on how muddy your soil is, you don't want to tamp too hard. So you get good soil contact with that seed, ensure better germination and emergence. This is an old corn planter that I inherited from my dad, who inherited it from his dad. So it's actually a pretty old piece of technology. Nice thing about it is I don't have to bend over to do planting. There are some disadvantages to it in that I may have to water my corn up. Also, I tend to get a few more seeds at each location that I want to, so I'll have to thin this crop out, but I can get a lot of corn planted pretty quick this way. So it's a little bit of a labor saver, and at least in planting season, and it's kind of a fun toy to have. You can get these probably, I think you can get similar tools at your garden centers or online, so it's a technology that's still around. This little planter is kind of another fun little toy. It's got some problems that I figured out how to work around. It's got a wheel in it that drops the seeds at a regular spacing, and I'll show you that wheel in just a minute. But there can be some multiple seeds again at each planting, so we may end up with more seeds that we want in a particular spot. I'll show you how this little toy works. It's got a wheel that fits in here, and it'll pick up the seeds and drop it around. The problem you run into is inside here, if you put a whole bunch of seeds in there, they tend to bind up on that washer and it pops, and you'll be popping seeds out, or the washer won't be turning, the disc won't be turning. So to get around that, I just put in a little bit of seed at a time, and I keep the seed on the back side of this washer so that the disc will come around and it doesn't bind up here in front of the washer. So you just kind of have to keep track of it, and actually it works pretty good if you do it that way. If you try to fill that hopper full, it's kind of a pain to work with. But if you're into toys, corn is a good way to go. So there you have it. Another fun way to play in your garden.